I was sitting in my study the other morning, the early Tennessee sun cutting a sharp line across my mahogany desk, and I found myself staring at a stack of old notebooks. I've kept these journals for years, not as a doctor, mind you, but as a man who has spent nearly 8 decades observing how we treat the only home we truly own, our bodies. There's a specific kind of silence in this room when I start connecting dots that most people miss. I was thinking about a friend of mine, a man I've known since our days back in Ohio. Let's call him Arthur. Arthur is 69, a retired teacher, and by all appearances, he's the picture of health. He walks 3 miles a day, he's never smoked a cigarette in his life, and he's meticulous about his weight. But last year, Arthur had a scare. A routine scan showed his arteries looked like those of someone 20 years his senior. They were stiff, inflamed, and showing the kind of wear and tear you'd expect from a lifetime of much harder living. We sat on my porch for 3 hours that afternoon, just talking. We went through his stress, his sleep, his vitamins, nothing fit, until we started talking about his kitchen. Arthur, being a bachelor and a practical man, loved to cook in bulk. He'd spend his Sunday prepping meals and then reheat his dinner in the microwave every single night. I started digging into the science behind that habit, and what I found genuinely disturbed me. It kept me up until 2 a.m., scribbling in my notebook. Most people think that once food is cooked, the chemistry is settled. But after 60, our relationship with leftovers has to change. The body we live in at 77, my age, is playing a completely different game than the one we had at 40. Back then, our bodies were like high-performance engines. We could neutralize free radicals and handle a bit of minor inflammation without a second thought. But now? The liver processes toxins more slowly. Our DNA repair mechanisms aren't as agile. The margin for error has shrunk. Things that were harmless at 40 are simply not harmless at 65 or 75. I'm telling you this because I've realized there are 5 specific foods that become quiet saboteurs when they hit the heat a second time. They trigger a chain reaction of inflammation that whispers to your arteries and your cells, and the bill doesn't come due until it's very expensive. This isn't about being fragile, it's about being attentive. The first one on my list, and this hit Arthur the hardest, is fried food. I'm talking about anything cooked in those common vegetable oils like sunflower, corn, or soybean oil. We all know fried food isn't health food, but the real danger isn't the first bite. It's the reheat. When you heat those oils again the next day, they go through a violent chemical breakdown. They oxidize. In that process, they release compounds called aldehydes. Now, I did some reading on aldehydes, and it turns out they are the same compounds found in cigarette smoke. It's not drama, it's chemistry. When those aldehydes enter your system, they go straight for your arterial walls. They trigger something called oxidative stress. For those of us over 60, our arteries are already losing some of that youthful elasticity. When you add oxidative stress to the mix, those walls thicken and stiffen. It's one of the fastest, most silent routes to high blood pressure I've ever come across. But it's worse than that. These compounds are free radicals that can actually nick your DNA. Most of the time, our bodies fix those nicks. But as we age, the repair crew is understaffed. That's how serious cellular mutations begin to accumulate. I told Eleanor we're done reheating anything fried in the microwave. If we have leftovers, they go in the air fryer at a very moderate temperature with no added oil, or we just eat them cold. Cold fried chicken is a picnic staple for a reason, and now I know it's actually a safety measure. The second one is a real heartbreaker because it involves the foods we eat specifically to be healthy. Leafy greens. I'm talking about your spinach, your kale, your Swiss chard. These are packed with nitrates, which are wonderful in their raw state. But here is what I discovered. When you cook them and let them sit, bacteria start a little factory, converting those nitrates into nitrites. That conversion happens even at room temperature. But the real trap is the reheating. When you apply heat to those nitrites, they react with the proteins in the food to produce something called nitrosamines. The World Health Organization classifies these as probable human carcinogens. They've been linked to stomach and esophageal issues, but they also do something else. They trigger vascular inflammation. When the lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, is inflamed, your body loses its ability to regulate blood flow properly. Your blood pressure starts to bounce around like a rubber ball. For someone our age, that combination of cellular risk and heart stress is a double threat we just don't need. Eleanor and I have a new rule in the kitchen. We only cook the amount of greens we're going to eat right then. If there's anything left over, it goes cold into a salad the next day. We never, ever put spinach back in the microwave. I've also noticed that a lot of people leave their cooked greens on the counter for an hour before putting them in the fridge. I stopped doing that immediately. Even 60 minutes at room temperature accelerates that chemical conversion. Before I go to the third food, I want to say something that I think is very important. I see a lot of people watching these videos who haven't subscribed to the channel yet. I don't mention this for the numbers. I mention it because I want to make sure you're here for the next conversation. If you're finding this useful, please check if you're subscribed. It helps me know that this work, these hours spent in my study, are reaching the people who need them most. We're building a community of people who refuse to be old by the world's standards, and I'd like you to be a part of it. The third food is one that seems like the safest thing in the world: rice. It's a staple for billions, but reheated rice is actually responsible for a staggering amount of foodborne illness. There's a specific bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Its spores are survivors. They can actually make it through the initial boiling process. When the rice cools down, those spores wake up and they multiply fast. Now you might think, I'll just heat it until it's steaming hot. That'll kill the bacteria. And you're right, it might kill the bacteria, but it does not destroy the toxins they've already produced. Those toxins are heat resistant. They stay active, ready to cause trouble. Short term, you get an upset stomach, but after 60, our gut lining is thinner and more permeable. These low-level toxins create chronic intestinal inflammation, and the gut and the heart are connected by a direct highway. Inflammatory signals from a leaky gut travel through the bloodstream, affecting your cholesterol and your blood pressure. I've seen stories of people with unexplained heart inflammation who were simply eating reheated rice 3 or 4 times a week. My rule now is to cool rice rapidly. I get it in the fridge within an hour of cooking, and I never keep it longer than 24 hours. And here is the most important part. I only reheat it once. If it's been heated twice, it goes in the bin. No exceptions. Then we have chicken. It's the lean protein of choice for most of us after 60. But the microwave and chicken are a dangerous pair. Microwaves don't heat evenly. They create cold zones. You can't see them. The outside of the chicken looks hot. Steam is rising. But inside, there are pockets where bacteria like Salmonella or Listeria can thrive. For us, a single episode of food poisoning isn't just a bad day. It's an assault on our systemic inflammation levels. Every time your immune system has to mobilize to fight off these bacterial toxins, it releases inflammatory cytokines. Small amounts, sure. But if you do this 2 or 3 times a week, those cytokines are circulating in your blood constantly. They promote plaque formation and make your blood more prone to clotting. I've started reheating my chicken in the oven, covered in foil, at a moderate temperature. It takes longer, yes, but it ensures there are no cold zones. If I'm in a hurry, I just eat the chicken cold on a sandwich. It's safer for my heart. The final food is the potato. This one really surprised me because the risk is twofold. First, there's acrylamide. When starchy foods are cooked at high heat, acrylamide forms. It's a probable carcinogen. Every time you reheat that potato, you're compounding the amount of acrylamide that was already there. After 60, our bodies just don't detoxify that stuff as well as they used to. But the heart side of the potato is even more interesting. When you cook a potato and let it cool, it develops something called resistant starch. This is wonderful stuff. It acts like fiber and keeps your blood sugar stable. But when you reheat that potato, that resistant starch converts back into regular starch. Regular starch digests fast. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas has to pump out a surge of insulin. For someone our age, those sharp, repeated blood sugar fluctuations cause oxidative stress in the vessel walls. It accelerates arterial stiffening. I've become a huge fan of the cold potato salad. I make it with olive oil, lemon, and herbs. By keeping the potato cold, I keep the resistant starch intact. My blood sugar stays stable, and I'm not compounding the acrylamide. It's a simple shift that protects both my cells and my arteries. I want to step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. We've talked about 5 foods, but what we're really talking about is a pattern. I spent years in the publishing world, and I learned that if you make a small mistake in a manuscript every day, by the end of the year you don't have a book, you have a mess. Your body is the same way. Chronic inflammation is the mess created by these small daily chemical insults. Every time we eat reheated oils or nitrosamines or bacterial toxins, we're adding fuel to a slow-burning fire. Over time, that fire damages the microscopic lining of your arteries. Your immune system tries to fix it by sending inflammatory cells, which then accumulate into plaque. The arteries narrow, the heart has to pump harder, and eventually the system starts to fail. I'm 77 years old. I've lived long enough to know that health isn't about one superfood or one miracle pill. It's about the things you stop doing. It's about the quiet choices you make in your kitchen on a Tuesday night. I've seen men my age who did everything right. They ran marathons, they ate organic, but they were still reheating their spinach and chicken every day without a second thought. They didn't feel the danger. That's the problem with chronic inflammation. It doesn't hurt until it's a crisis. But the good news, and I want you to hear this clearly, is that the body's capacity for recovery is genuinely remarkable. Inflammation is reversible. Arterial function can improve. You can turn down the heat on that internal fire starting today. Here is my practical after 60 kitchen protocol. First, if it was fried, let it stay cold or use an air fryer briefly. Second, cook your greens fresh. If you have leftovers, put them in a cold grain bowl. Third, treat rice with respect. Cool it fast, eat it within a day, and never reheat it twice. Fourth, ditch the microwave for your chicken. Use the oven or eat it cold. And fifth, embrace the cold potato. Your blood sugar will thank you. None of these changes require a prescription. None of them cost a dime. They just require a shift in how we think about temperature and timing. I think about Eleanor a lot when I write these things. We've been together a long time, and I want to make sure we have as many years left as possible. I don't want to be the guy who is fragile. I want to be the guy who is informed. There's a dignity in knowing how your body works and giving it what it needs to thrive in this chapter of life. My father used to say that experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. I'm trying to give you the benefit of my experience and the experience of the researchers I study so that you do get what you want, a long, healthy, lucid life. Envelhecer bem, aging well, starts with the things you stop ignoring. We've ignored the chemistry of our leftovers for too long. It's time to take back the kitchen. I'm curious, which of these 5 foods surprised you the most? For me, it was the spinach. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you have a friend or a sibling who is over 60 and lives on reheated meals, please share this with them. We're at an age where we need to look out for each other. The body always warns us before it collects the bill. I'm just here to help you hear the warning while there's still time to change the outcome. Take care of your heart and take care of each other. I'll be here in my study, keeping an eye on the details. Talk soon.